Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Challengers of the New World Season 1. This is game number 6 in a best of 15 series between Aizamk and Umeu, where every vanilla civilization has to be played. That's right. On screen right now, you will see all of the civilizations that they have available to them for this event. Each civilization that they have won a game with will now be ticked off. They can no longer use these civilizations. They must move on to the other ones. Once they have won a game with every civilization, they will win this event, and they will also win the rights to compete in Challengers of the New World Season 2, which, ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to announce, will be worth $40, and Gaia will be our competitor for that. Gaia, for those of you who don't know, won. No, he did not. He came second in PK Clan Tournament 4. He also came second in PK Clan Tournament 3. He's definitely a very well-rounded player and will be a pretty tough opponent for either of these two players, depending on which one actually does win this season. We'll see. But, yes, there we have it. Aizamk in the north of the map, in the colour blue, playing as the British here, laying down a trading post. That's the first thing he's done. This is fairly odd. You don't usually see British players going for a trading post in Age 1, since, well, really, manor houses are a better investment of wood. A lot of players will argue. You get a free settler, of course, for each time you build a manor, but certainly the trading post is going to allow him to have more shipments throughout the colonial age, and it also means that that initial spam of shipments that you get upon hitting up to the colonial age will all be able to come out, you know, pretty quickly, one after the other. So this could mean we're going to see a rush, some sort of aggressive agenda. Over here we see him going for a 150 food treasure. Pretty nice there. 2 polar bears. Going to creep that, of course, with the crack shot. Of course, there were 2. There's now 1 there. But food definitely, you know, certainly going to be able to get that before he ages up, and that would increase the potency of any rush that he does actually decide to do. So, rush definitely on the cards. It's possible, indeed. A trading post could also suggest some sort of Fortress Age agenda, but I do find that unlikely since he is actually playing as the British, which won't rush up to the Fortress Age as quickly as, say, Ottoman and Spain can, because they kind of do want to make use of their civilization bonus, which is collecting wood and building houses and stuff like that. But yes, let's switch over to his opponent in the south of the map, in the colour red, playing as Russia, sending Polar Explorer. Is just arrived. You get a War Dog here. You also get an Explorer, which has a ×5 multiplier versus all Treasure Guardians, and of course it has increased stats. Now going to go for this 150 coin treasure, though Umeu has just walked into the line of sight of this 90 coin treasure. You can see that the Guardian is in combat with something which will undoubtedly be the Explorer of Aizamk here. Very low hit points, now being targeted by both Treasure Guardians and an Explorer here. Both the wolves, fairly low hit points. These are going to go down. Both players going to try and kill them. Then going for the treasure here. Who is going to get the treasure, though? Umeu killing the Explorer. I think Aizamk going in there first. Managing to get himself 90 coin there. He, of course, deserved that since he was going for it, but the War Dog now going to come in combination with that Explorer and take out Aizamk's Explorer, shooting one of the Mother Nature Treasure Guardians. I think what he was trying to do there was get the Mother Nature Treasure Guardian. Whoever gets the last hit in this game will, of course, get the kill XP, and I think Aizamk wanted Mother Nature to kill his Explorer so that he would deny the kill XP to Aizamk. Instead, it would go to Mother Nature. But you can see that Polar Explorer card really coming into effect here since, of course, well, he is able to pick up all these treasures. 150 coin right there. I believe there was a 90 coin treasure he just picked up. Let's take the Fog of War off. You can see down here, 160 XP guided by 2 polar bears. 80 food up here. 100 wood over here. Like, that Polar Explorer card is really, really good. That is definitely going to allow him to pick up an absolute ton of treasures. It is comparable to, say, the 300 wood shipment that you might send in Vanilla Age of Empires 3, but in the Asian dynasties, you do often send distributivism, which is that 1.25 wood per second. He's actually sending it right now as well. 2 Age 1 shipments. That is something. Definitely going to be playing perhaps a more boomy playstyle here. Well, it's just that Age 1 shipments aren't worth very much compared to Age 2 shipments, so I would expect him to actually send, or not send, I suppose, the distributivism, but actually, yeah, there's that. Let's switch over to Aizamk again. He is now, of course, going up to the colonial age and has a fairly large amount of manors going down. He's actually sent 2 Age 1 shipments as well. I think that is what the trading post was for. He's actually sent 3 settlers, which I think is, you know, just so good that you don't want to not send it. followed up by Virginia Company, which decreases the cost of houses by 35%. It's very interesting, this, because you don't often see Virginia Company in play. I do, however, see a blockhouse, I think, on the minimap here. Yes, it's going up right now. Let's switch back to Umeu. Yeah, he's almost up to Colonial, going up with 14 settlers. So despite this boomy kind of two-shipment Discovery Age thing, he's going to get up with 14 settlers and start making musketeers or whatever he's going to do and harass the British player whilst he's kind of booming. I mean, Russia can rush. They've got like 5 Cossacks, 4 Cossacks, 13 Strelets, but, you know, why would you if your settlers do train 30% quicker and you can have that really strong late colonial that I mentioned in previous videos? So there is certainly that. He can still harass whilst he is booming, though it won't be a full-on pressure. It's going to be a couple of musks. But let's talk about that Virginia Company. You see here now sending 700 wood. Let's bring up my calculator. Here he goes again, ladies and gentlemen, bringing up his calculator for fairly simple calculation. So 135 wood, that is the cost of a manor. Subtract 88, that is how much a manor house will cost after you have sent a Virginia Company, since it decreases the cost of manors by 35%. So a house, you actually save 47 wood for every house that you send. Now, that sounds really good, but it's not actually that good. Let's explain why. Okay. Alright, so you're saving 47 wood every time you construct a house. It's basically 50 wood. Sounds really good. Okay, but you sent a card in order to be able to do that. If you hadn't have sent that card, you could, in theory, send a different card. And that card would most likely have been 700 wood, right? So let's compare the 700 wood shipment to the Virginia Company shipment. And this is why you do not see Virginia Company in play very often. Because 700 wood divided by 47 is equal to 14.89. You have to build 15 manors, if we round it up, 15 manors in order to make Virginia Company the same value as the 700 wood shipment. That is a really steep requirement. And, well, the reason, though, I say it is interesting that you don't see Virginia Company in play very often, because you don't. Let's bring up the calculator again. Let's say 700 wood, okay, divide it by 135, that is equal to 5.1. So you can get 5.1 manors out of your 700 wood shipment, okay? But after Virginia Company is active, you can actually get a lot more out of it. Divided by 88, you get 8 manors out of a 700 wood shipment. So you can see that Virginia Company is pretty good if you combine it with your wood shipments, because the value of manors increases, I suppose. Even settlers just chopping wood can build more manors once Virginia Company has arrived. And actually, let's bring up the calculator one final time, okay? If you maximize the 20 manors, okay, times 47, you actually save 940 wood. That's actually the best Age 1 shipment in the game. You think about it like that. But the requirement is to build all 20 manors, which is really, really steep. So I suppose, it's not quite as good as your 700 wood. But if you combine it with the 700 wood shipments and the 600 wood shipment, I think it can be pretty okay. But yes, there is certainly that. We see that there are 5 musketeers sieging down this trading post. At the moment, Russian musketeers, of course, Umeu playing as Russia, they are quite weak. They don't have very many hit points. They've got quite a low attack. So if he were to come in and try and kill a settler here, really all Aizamk would have to do is put the settler into the tower, and then, well, he wouldn't take any loss in settler numbers, but the musketeers certainly would take some damage from the tower, and perhaps even the town centre, for basically no gain at all. So he needs to wait for a second batch of military units before he can even think about really coming in here. You can see him scouting out this dead caribou on the floor there, thinking maybe there were some settlers. You can see trying to kill the settlers that aren't in range of the tower. Now coming in again, and you can see, well, the musketeer taking damage. It's just really like that much damage worth for absolutely no gain. But yes, now that these military units have arrived, he perhaps can think about it. Perhaps sieging down this trading post is what he should have done. But hussars now coming in from Aizamk, going to pick off a musketeer there. And I think Umeu responding perhaps a little bit slowly, since actually they were, taking a little bit of time to get into hand combat and use that damage multiplier. But yeah, anyway, we see spice trade now being sent for the Russian player. He's also building these 2 trading posts, definitely committing to a boom here, and is going to challenge the British, I suppose, with regards to booming. But yeah, let's switch over to Aizamk. We see he's only got the 1 military building. It is only that stable there. All he has is hussars, and coming in with those hussars, perhaps going to kill some settlers there, but definitely very much in range of the military units. I would actually just say losing a hussar there for free. Not really any damage done to a settler, but certainly going to continue down past this trading post here. Going to perhaps look for some settlers on these other caribou in his town centre on the coin mine. The British player will also going to boom along. Both players sending those 2 Discovery Age shipments. Just both players booming, but still going to try and harass each other, though. But I would say that Umeu not doing such a good job, since actually his units are now back in his base defending rather than actually pressuring. And we all know that British is a far stronger boomer than Russia. But actually, sending 700 food now for this British player. Very odd shipment indeed. Definitely not very cost effective in terms of villager seconds, but still got his 5 and 4 settlers available to him to send. He has constructed 15 manors with this Virginia Company 700-600 wood combo, but he could boom harder, absolutely. But the 700 food, you can see he's constructed 2 barracks as well, in addition to this stable. The food definitely going to allow him to get out a very large amount of musketeers, and I suppose hussars as well. I would say actually going to get a full batch, thanks to this food shipment, of musketeers from both barracks and the stable, which will give him a fairly large mass, and then would be able to challenge Umeu's military here. And we have to remember, Umeu doesn't actually have that many. He has been booming for the most part at the moment, recently anyway. Yeah, now sending 700 coin. Perhaps he's going to start massing some cavalry up. Does he have a stable? He has added in a stable there. Cossacks, of course, costing 75 coin each. Fairly costly in the coin department, so you can have the majority of your settlers on food to maintain musketeer and strellet production. I think this is where he's going to start massing up. But you can see Aizamk here now sending the cavalry hit points here for plus 15% on his hit points of the cavalry, and has a fairly sizable mass of musketeers, especially once these 2 barracks have finished kind of, creating them. And then he could go in here and clearly, at this point in time, has a larger military than the Russia. And most of his units are hussars, which are really strong. They cost a lot. They've got high hand attack. They're actually good against everything, providing it hasn't got a multiplier against them in hand attack or whatever. But yes, Russia now coming forward, perhaps going to engage here, but this might be the wrong decision. Of course, he has been booming. I think if he goes back and keeps these military units, it doesn't look too good. British now coming in. Of course, these hussars now have kind of Mameluke syndrome due to the fact that he sent the hussar upgrade card, but now going to engage here, going into hand attack move, all that good stuff. Musketeers here doing crazy damage as well. Those musketeers of Russia really need to go into hand combat if they really want to do anything against these hussars. It's just looking like an absolute mess. He's going to lose all of his units. This is not good. Let's switch over to Umeu. He has 5 Cossacks now on the way, but they're a bit late. If they joined at the beginning of the fight, I don't know how much difference they would have made. Certainly 4 Cossacks now coming in down from the stable, but they've arrived a bit late. Perhaps those these Cossacks from the stable and from the home city could have been used in combination to help him, but it just seems too late, and you can see it's an absolute massacre. The British player doing this really, really interesting timed push. He's definitely 15 manor houses with the Virginia Company stuff, and then sending 700 food just to mass up a huge, a decent amount of musketeers, and then allow him to engage. Anyway, back into this fight. The game definitely not over yet. Umeu still has a very large economy behind him, which is coming to fruition right about now. But right now in this fight, you can see Umeu frantically trying to take out these hussars here of the blue player, but all of his units going down. He really needs to take out these hussars. 5 musketeers popping out of his barracks there. Going to go into hand combat for that 10 times 3 damage multiplier versus these hussars. He needs to take them out, since of course he has strelets in training right now at this blockhouse and about to pop from a home city shipment, and those are really going to be useful for taking out these musketeers. They can outrange the musketeers slightly, and they can hit and run, but he didn't manage to take the hussars out, but unfortunately they are moving away from his strelets, which are now here, and you can see the musketeers are going to start running away from the strelets, and fortunately 5 Cossacks pop out of his stable here, going to engage these hussars. 5 Cossacks will take out 4 hussars. All of these hussars very low hit points. Fortunately, they did move away from the strelets. Hussars very strong against strelets here, but you can see the musketeers running towards the hussars, and now the hussars engaging the strelets there, and unfortunately the wrong units fighting each other. Umeu's Russian Cossacks fighting the musketeers, and they are going to go down so quickly, but the game is finishing there. But really, I think Umeu had so much left to give. It definitely was not over for him. Because, well, if Umeu had avoided that big fight entirely, if perhaps 2 minutes earlier in this game he didn't have his army so far forward near the British player's base, Aizamk wouldn't have been able to trap him out of position like that. If Russia kept out of that fight, he would have been able to keep messing up, and with just a few more units, I think he really would have been able to deal with what British had. You have to remember that Russia invest a lot less into their boom than British, and whilst British do have a stronger boom, it comes to fruition a lot later on in the game. Really, it was just that 700 food shipment fueling a British timing push, which could have been avoided, and food is just a bad shipment, especially compared to 5 settlers, which he could have trained. I think if this was played right, then this game could have gone on a very long time, especially since British do run out of hunts, and they do have to come out looking for more hunts at some point, and if Russia have map control at that point, then things can certainly become very interesting indeed, but that is not the case this game. I suppose this kind of thing really does highlight the importance of scouting. Anyway, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Ultimately, Aizamk picking up a nice win with the British with a really nice timing push. Certainly very well done indeed. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please do remember to press that like button. I really do appreciate that every time. Thanks again. My name has been Interjection, and I will see you next time.